Wise Child by Monica Furlong. Chapter 4. Fairy Food. I was to see Coleman again quite soon. On Saturday, Juniper said, "Mass tomorrow," as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "I thought we'd go down with Tilly, and then I'll wait till it's over and bring you back," she said. "This first time, at least." "I shall have to fast tomorrow morning," I said shyly, not sure how well she understood our customs. "Of course," she said. "I thought I could bring some bread down, and you can have a bite on the way home, or a picnic if you'd rather." I was not sure whether Phelan Priest was glad to see me or not. He greeted me shortly as I entered, and walked me down the aisle with his hand on my shoulder. I was glad to get out from under its weight and scramble over the legs of Connor and Seamus to reach Coleman's side. When Phelan gave his exposition of the gospel, he talked about the powers of darkness and how they must be overcome by the powers of light. Coleman, who always listened in church, instead of daydreaming as I did, nudged me gently with his elbow, as if guessing that Phelan might have spoken against her. Juniper asked me about him when I rejoined her. We were walking through a little wood along the banks of the river, and I was already munching on my bread. "He talked about Pelagus," I lied. Pelagus was an English scholar who had a quarrel with the great St. Augustine, and Phelan was always defending him or else telling us about the other big quarrel, about the date of Easter. "Pelagus, who thinks we are good entirely by our own endeavours?" Juniper asked. "The man's a fool." "Phelan doesn't think so." Truly, I did not care one way or another, but I was surprised that Juniper knew about Pelagus. Although Juniper was not a Christian, from then on Sundays became our holy days, and apart from caring for the animals, we did no work. I had soon learned to milk Daisy, and though she never yielded much milk for me as for Juniper, it was one of my favourite chores. Still, I resented having to get up early to do it. On Sundays we would go down to the shore, where Juniper taught me to swim, or we would walk in the great meadow, or if it was wet, we would light a fire and sit by it, and Juniper would tell me her marvellous stories or sing to me. We needed our Sundays since we worked so hard the rest of the week. "Pearl shall wake you," Juniper said a day or two after I had settled in, and every morning the white cat would push the door of the big bedroom open. Juniper had got up long since, jump on my bed and walk patiently over me until I sat up. "Go away, Pearl," I would say crossly, but she was persistent and would give me no peace until I got out of bed, ran downstairs and washed myself in the trough under the cistern in the yard. As I ran in again, shivering and bad-tempered, I could hear Juniper busy in the dairy. I dressed, came downstairs again, and went out to milk Daisy, and by the time I had finished, breakfast was always ready. Then I did some horrible heathen English, or worked at astronomy with some glass stones on the floor. That was the easy part. The real labours of the day began in the afternoon. The worst afternoon was one we spent cutting peat, during a period of a waning moon, of course. It was a wet day, when I thought we should have stayed at home by the fire, and the walk to the bog seemed endless. Then I had the job of pulling back the heather roots, which were tough and hurt my hands, to expose the peat underneath. Juniper cut the long, thin pieces of turf with a sharp spade. You push it in at an angle, and then it all had to be piled up in neat heaps to dry. It was boring, back-aching work, and it took all afternoon before Juniper was satisfied. On another day we would load it all into Tilly's panniers, and take it back to the White House, where it would all have to be piled up again. "Won't that be lovely in the winter?" was Juniper's only comment on our work. I'm going to pause there.